Welcome to the Wellness Business Success Secrets Summit. I'm Jasper Dayton, and I tell you, I'm here with Steve Roller. And you guys, if you don't know Steve, what you are going to know is I've known Steve. He says we've known each other for 15 years. I think it's been 17 because
Maybe.
we met. I was very young at that time, at least 17 years younger. But we met at a brew house. We met at a brew house for lunch, and we both had no idea what we were meeting about, but we were definitely meeting about his dream.
Yes.
And helping him understand how to get started. And I have to tell you, from 17 years ago, you've come a very long way, and you've been doing that dream, which is wonderful. And we've kept in touch, but we've been meeting in passing because we know a lot of the same extraordinary people, and
Yeah.
which was just like, wow, you know this? Oh, cool, so do I. And what has brought about me reconnecting with Steve is somebody asked me to write something, and they wanted it to actually sound really good. And I'm a writer, but I'm a writer that doesn't write. And my head starts to hurt when I start thinking about having to write an essay or an article or something like that. So I thought of Steve, and I connected with him, and I found out about all the amazing things that he's doing. And he's helping people understand how to be better writers and how to actually write copy that makes sense and that actually helps them promote themselves in a way that's going to help them attract clients and do the things that they need to be doing. And I'm going to see if you could help us understand. You've got this Copywriter Cafe, which is a community of these amazing people that I'm just so impressed with who they are. It's a huge group. You went from the brew hub to a cafe to a virtual cafe that is just wonderful. And I'm learning every day from them and learning more and more that has actually expanded me and my business and how I communicate with people and how I actually am now enjoying to write and not looking at it as a pain and knowing that this is something I have to do. So I need to start enjoying it. And you've taught me how to do that in a very short period of time. So if you could share with us how you got started, what was your drive to even do what you're doing, and what exactly you're up to right now?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here and excited to share some ideas with everybody today. And thanks for that wonderful introduction. I think it has been probably maybe 17 years, I guess, that we met. And we met at, like you said, at a brew pub. But right at about that time, I was transitioning I had been in direct sales for about 17 years, had a very successful career. I love sales. I love people. I love the selling process. And I had done quite well. But I was getting to a point in my life and in my career where I wanted to do something different. I had always worked for big companies, which was fine, but I wanted to do my own thing. I had this, I don't know, this entrepreneurial drive. I didn't know quite what that would look like, but I wanted to do my own thing. And I also knew at that time, of course, this is the early 2000s when everybody was getting online and starting online businesses and stuff. I had no idea how to do anything at that point, but I wanted to do something that would be maybe a little bit more location independent than my sales job, where it was confined to a geographic territory. I also had a couple small kids at the time, and we've got four now, and they're mostly grown up. But I wanted to be able to do something where I could take my business with me wherever I was too. And I like traveling a lot. You know, I've traveled quite a bit. I'll maybe talk about that a little bit later. But anyways, so I had a career in sales, and I discovered around 2004, I discovered this idea of copywriting, which is essentially, as you know, copywriting is essentially selling in print. It's just conveying with the written word, whether that's online or in print, a persuasive message. So I'm a copywriter. I've been a copywriter since 2004, and I've helped lots and lots of businesses grow their business by crafting better messages, whether that's, branding messages, taglines, direct response copywriting, website copy, email marketing, whatever it may be. So I did that for a number of years, and I started connecting with a number of copywriters back around 2010, 2011. And I don't know how it exactly happened, but people were discovering me, they were discovering my website, and I started giving advice, not just to businesses about growing their businesses, but I started giving advice to other freelance copywriters. And so I never intended this to be my business or my career giving advice to other freelancers or other small business people or entrepreneurs, but it just kind of organically grew into that. So anyways, so 5 years ago, I started this little group called the Copywriter Cafe on Facebook. I started with, I don't know, about 40 of my, mostly people that I knew, friends of mine who were copywriters. And it has since grown to over 6,000 members, and it's a very engaged, very, well, you're in it now, you've seen, it's a very engaged, lively group. And it's a place, I guess the reason I started it at that time 5 years ago, I didn't see a place anywhere online where people could get advice, ideas in a setting like this, where I just kind of saw it as a, I don't know, just really a virtual cafe. The idea came from this idea of back in the 1920s in Paris, a group of writers like Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald and all these really cool writers would gather at the Shakespeare and Company bookstore, and they would come there every day, and they'd trade, they'd look over each other's books, and they'd give each other critiques and give each other feedback. So that's what this Copywriter Cafe became, as a place for people to get feedback, ideas, advice on getting better at copywriting, getting better at growing their business, and getting better at serving their clients. So that has grown quite well. It's still a very fast-growing, lively, engaged community. And I've also created a paid membership site too that I have at my website, cafewriter.com. And that's grown quite well too. So basically what I do now is in addition to serving my own clients, other businesses, and helping them grow by writing messages for them, I also help individuals, copywriters, entrepreneurs, small business people, freelancers grow their business. Nice. So that was maybe kind of a long answer to your question.
That was beautiful. So what I've found within the wellness business industry is everybody wants to write their book, and everybody wants to make millions writing that book, and everyone wants to make it as an ebook, and everyone wants everyone to download it and subscribe to it and then become their client. And all that is well, good, and beautiful in a perfect world. But you've written your own ebooks, and you understand the whole philosophy of it. But by being a business owner, not just in the wellness industry, but to leave your mark or to be heard or to have something like that, what is the benefit of an ebook, and will you become a millionaire with it?
Well, the benefit of writing something, first of all, I think everybody needs to and should publish something, whether that's just to start with your own website, of course, your blog, articles. You need to publish something to get the word out. You can't just be there and hang out your virtual shingle and hope that people see you. You've got to take a stand on things, and you've got to publish something so people understand how you fit in and where you're different and how you can help them. So the benefit of having an ebook, of course, is I think it gives you authority. I think it gives you some credibility. It gets your ideas out into the world. And it shows that you know what you're talking about. What was the other question? Will you become a millionaire with it? I don't think so. No. Although I know people that have done quite well selling just ebooks and selling Kindle books and stuff like that. I do know people that make a very good living doing that. But what I see it as, Jasper, is I see it as a tool to get you to the next spot. It's really, for me, an ebook, or maybe even just a short special report that you might have on your website, is really just a tool to get the conversation started and to get somebody into your world. They don't know you, they may not know you, maybe they've heard of you, or they just happen upon your website, or somebody refers you to them, but they really don't know what you're all about and what your ideas are. So it's really a way to start the conversation. I see it as the opening, the start of the, of what I call the funnel. The funnel is a big, obviously a hot marketing term these days, and everybody's trying to build their funnel and, create their marketing funnel and get clients. But I really do see that as the starting point, and I'll go into it in a little bit, what I see as the steps in the process of where you go from there. So can you make money with it? Yeah, absolutely. If it leads to the next step, you have to have kind of a path laid out as to where you want this to go. If you're just writing a book and thinking, hey, people, I'm going to sell 20,000 of those this year and make $100,000 or something. Yeah, probably not going to happen. But if you can point them toward your services, maybe your coaching, your training, whatever it is that you do, and that builds your business, and then there's all kinds of ways to leverage it from there. Yeah, so absolutely, I think everybody should start at least with some kind of ebook or special report.
So it's a good lead generator, or it's a good
Absolutely.
good start to a list build is what we call it, or it's the first step to the funnel. So, but it helps you get more clients. But why is it that getting clients is the wrong focus?
Okay, so here's what I see, and I think this is true across all industries. So I work with mostly copywriters, but I also work with small business people, and everybody, especially when they first come in, is always just, they're hungry. And if you, especially when you're first starting out, it's a challenge to get your schedule booked up and to get clients, and it becomes so much easier once it's kind of a paradox that when you're busy and you don't need clients, that's when they come to you, and you don't, then you got to turn them away or refer them to other people. But when you need clients, it's harder. So in the beginning, everybody's all about getting clients, and it seems to be the focus of, I don't know, it's kind of a psychological shift. It's almost like this idea of, gosh, I need clients and I hope they pick me. And when you're not booked up solid and you're not making quite the money you want to make yet, and you're focused on getting clients, you have this mindset. So it's part, I'll go into this, but it's partly a psychological thing. It's partly a marketing thing, and it's partly a sales thing. But the mindset part of it, the psychological part of it, is you're thinking, gosh, I hope they pick me, and you're thinking like, ooh, they're the good client. I want to get them. And you're acting like they're the prize and they're the catch. You got to kind of flip that positioning. And it's really more about, you got to have the attitude like, hey, you are the prize, you're the catch, and they would be lucky to work with you.
Right.
And I know that's a tough mental shift, especially when you're not busy and you're not successful yet and you're not making tons of money yet. But really, from the beginning, you've got to have that attitude that, hey, I'm the one that's, they're going to be lucky to work with me. And, let's have a conversation here and see if we're a good fit. And if we are, hey, I'd love to help you. But if we're not, I can maybe refer you to somebody else, instead of groveling at the feet of clients and hoping that they pick you. And it comes into play in your marketing and the way you talk to them and the client conversation. It comes into play in everything, but it really starts, I believe it starts with making that mental shift of realizing that they would be lucky to work with you, and not in an arrogant way or anything like that, but just, you've got to believe that you've got something valuable that can help people. You are trying to serve people. And it all comes from an attitude of service, but you've got something that can serve people and help people and solve their problems. And you just want to help as many people as you can. Some people are a good fit, some people aren't, but you're the one deciding on that. And you're doing what I call the sifting and sorting versus throwing your hat in the ring with a bunch of people and hoping they pick you. For example, let's say somebody was looking for a personal trainer and they put a bunch of feelers out and contacted 5 personal trainers. Well, they're all thinking, oh, I hope she picks me. I hope she picks me. I hope she comes to my boot camp. That's kind of the wrong way to look at it.
So with writing and knowing who your audience is that you want to be working with, where it's not everybody, it's a certain, they say niche. I call it a niche. I don't know what's the proper pronunciation. Is it niche or niche?
I go back and forth depending on who I'm talking to. If I talk to somebody that pronounces it niche, I say niche.
Well, I call it a niche.
I do too.
So with the writing that we're putting out there, whether it's in an ebook, whether it's in a published book, whether it's on our website, whether it's in an article that we are putting out in a publication or in a newspaper or in a newsletter to our current list, to make sure that we're attracting the right people, how do we know what words to use?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think there's a number of things that come into this. First of all, I've studied copywriting for 13 years now, and I've been in sales before that, and there's a lot of overlap and a lot of crossover, but you really have to understand and get inside the mind of your client and understand who they are and what their problems are. using the right words isn't talking at people. It isn't, slamming your message at them and, talking at them. It's having a one-on-one conversation with people. And whether you're, marketing to a bunch of people or doing a video or whatever, but however you're communicating with people, you always have to imagine as if you're talking to somebody just one-on-one, having a conversation as if you were sitting down for coffee and talking to them. And I think that's kind of the style of copywriting that I use, is what I would call a conversational style of copywriting, and just acting as if you're having a one-on-one conversation. As far as what are the right words to use, this gets kind of involved, and I'm not going to get into all this, but first of all, I will say it is, this copywriting is an art, it's a craft. And what I would say to anybody watching this is that if you aren't good at it, hire somebody. And I'm not saying this to promote my services. I'm booked up and I don't have any desire to have more copywriting clients, but hire a copywriter who can help you. And here's the thing too, Jasper, I know even copywriters, very successful copywriters, who hire someone else to write their copy for them when they're promoting themselves. So even we as copywriters will find another copywriter to help us write the words that we want to convey to other copywriters. I've done that myself a few times. So as far as what the right words are, I guess one other thing I want to bring into this a little bit, and this is kind of your area of expertise too, is the whole idea of personal branding. And it's got to have, and you come at personal branding from a perspective of, I know you do fantastic logos and, image branding and stuff like that. I talk about personal branding from a standpoint of, do you have an authentic voice in your writing? Do you stand out? I guess here's what I see with a lot of people online, whether it's health coaches or personal trainers or whatever it is, anybody we're talking health and fitness industry, but I'm talking about copywriters too, is that everybody kind of sounds like, there's very few people that stand out to me, that really stand out in a unique, authentic way. Everybody kind of plays what I call follow the follower, and they tend to say kind of the same things. And you see this in marketing messages and copy, that we start seeing the same kind of Facebook ads, we start seeing the same kind of email marketing messages, the same subject lines. And after a while, people kind of zone that out, and it doesn't really resonate with people. So somehow, some way, you've got to, act as if you're talking and having a one-on-one conversation with people. You've got to understand their pain points and where they're coming from, and address those problems. You've got to have an authentic voice. You've got to develop your own style, your own personal brand. And those things take time. That whole process of developing a voice in your writing, developing your brand, your personal brand, as you know, that takes time. But if you can help somebody to help you write the right words and convey the right message, that goes a long ways. First impressions count, and people will judge us based on what they see immediately. And the writing, the messages is, one of the first things that people see.
Right. I get it. And so to separate yourself from to look like a commodity or a swipe file or whatever we want to call it, like everybody else, a way to sidestep that trap, how do we stand out? I mean, what would you recommend?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, it is. So I think what you mean by that, and I guess what I mean by that when I talk about, becoming a commodity, is that when there's a lot of people rushing into any given field. So in my field, there's a ton of freelance copywriters, and to the client, we kind of all look the same. Same thing with personal trainers, and I've hired personal trainers myself. I work with some fitness people, and I work with personal trainers with their marketing and stuff. And to the average client who's maybe looking for a personal trainer, a lot of them look the same. A lot of health coaches look the same. A lot of life coaches look the same. And so somehow, and when that happens, and let's just use personal trainers as an example, when the client sees everybody kind of looking the same, they start thinking, well, they all kind of do the same thing. And, let's just compare on price. Okay, what do they charge per hour? What does this person charge per hour? And they start comparing just based on an hourly basis price type thing. And they think you're all the same. And certainly that's not the case. So somehow, some way, you've got to stand out, and you've got to become, I guess what I would call, and this is not my term, but you've got to become a category of one. You've got to stand out in a way, and you've got to do something that's somehow different. It doesn't have to be revolutionary. Like, for example, if you're a personal trainer, there aren't really any brand new, completely revolutionary fitness ideas that nobody in the world has heard of, and that you're the first one that's come upon it. But somehow you've got to package what you do into something unique and convey that, again, through copywriting, through marketing, that it's different. So you've got to become a category of one. You can't, don't call yourself the same thing as everybody else. If you're a personal trainer, maybe come up with a unique title for yourself. Mm-hmm. For copywriters, everybody calls themselves a freelance copywriter pretty much, and they don't really come up with anything creative. So I wrote an ebook called 47 Ways to Do Copywriting, and I outlined 47 ways for copywriters to differentiate themselves in a very crowded marketplace. And if somebody came to me as a health coach, as a life coach, as a personal trainer, whatever, I could help them, do that. It's so somehow, you don't necessarily need someone to help you do that, but on your own, think about how can I be different? How can I stand out? That could be in your title, it could be in the tagline, but it could also be getting very specific with what you do. I keep coming back to these examples of like a fitness trainer, but so if you're a fitness person and you offer a boot camp, how about here's an idea. How about don't call it a boot camp? Everybody calls it a boot camp. How about you come up with something different and call it something different? How about instead of doing it at 6 a.m. like everybody else does, do it on a different day of the week or whatever, but be different, do something different. And I always talk about too with my the copywriters that I'm helping, is I talk about developing what I call your signature story and getting really good at telling, both in print and verbally, to people. This goes a little bit more in depth than the typical, everybody's heard of the 30-second elevator speech. You got to come up with your quick saying of what you do, but this goes into a little bit more detail about who you are and what you do and who it's for and why it matters, and the type of people you work with, the type of people you don't work with, how you're different than the competition, why that matters. All these things are things that you need to think about. And I guess along with that is people need to recognize that they have competition. I think sometimes people think they're unique and think that just because they've got a clever business name that alone is going to do it. But I think it's not a bad thing to tell your audience, tell your prospects, hey, there's this guy over here does it this way, and this woman over here does it this way. I'm a little different, without ever talking down about the competition or bad-mouthing anybody, but I think it's not a bad idea to acknowledge and recognize the competition and just tell people in a very straightforward way, here's how I'm different. If you're looking for this, yeah, that person over there might be the best fit. If you're looking for this, though, we might be a good fit, and we might have something to talk about.
Right, and it also depends on who your audience is and what they're looking to buy, too, because I have to tell you, you brought up a thought on the best personal trainer title that I remember. It has to be memorable too. And this was years ago. This was a bodybuilding gym. It was a Gold's Gym, and they called their personal trainers body mechanics. And I thought that was the coolest thing. And so
very cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
And I remember it's been years, and that was the one thing that just stuck in my head. And so making sure it's memorable, so that because your business is also built on referrals. So you want to use words that people can relay and then recommend you to other people. So I love that. So
yeah,
thank you.
That's a great example. I love that.
Yeah. So
excellent.
And how do we get rid of how much do I charge? That whole idea of, well, gosh, I don't want to turn people away, but I definitely want to get paid what I'm worth. So how do you reiterate that?
Yeah. How much do I get charged? How much do I charge? That tends to be the biggest thing that one of the biggest challenges that I hear from copywriters, but I see this from all kinds of people. Anybody that's providing any kind of service or product, if you charge too much, you're going to price yourself out, and you're not going to get booked up, and you're just going to price yourself out of the market. If you're not charging enough, though, and the bigger problem with most people is they don't charge enough. And there's interesting ways in a lot of ways that you can charge more than even what the going rate is. So you don't have to look at what the competition's doing and charge exactly what they're doing. But that is the biggest challenge for people, is how much do I charge for solo entrepreneurs, small business owners? You have to. That's the biggest challenge. So there's like 5 different types of pricing. There's value-based pricing, market-based pricing. I've gone through psychological-based pricing, but I've gone through 5 different pricing ways to do that. But I think it kind of comes back to being in a category of one and doing something different. If you're doing something exactly like what everyone else is doing, then people might compare you apples to apples to somebody else. But if they can't do that, and you're providing something that's totally different than, not totally different, but you just call it something else, or maybe you're explaining your process and someone else maybe does the same thing, but you're the only one that's actually explaining your process and the way you do things, then you can charge more. So I think it starts with, that category of one type thinking, and not playing the same game as everybody else, and not trying to do the same thing. So if personal trainers are all charging, $80 an hour or whatever, or $97 for their boot camp, or whatever the trend is, and whatever everybody else is doing, how about think about something completely different? So I have a client that I've worked with for 7 years now, a personal training client, and it's a company that has a bunch of personal training facilities all over the country, but they just do it with one-on-one training. They've come up with a completely different model. So where everybody else is, either doing the big Gold's Gym type thing at $29 a month, or, maybe more, individual personal based training at $80 an hour, $100 an hour, whatever. They've come up with a system where they get people in and out, but they do a really focused workout for 20 minutes, and it costs about $80 per session. But if you think about that, they're getting $240 an hour for their services, and people are just as happy, and they stay on board for a long time. I just interviewed one of their clients who's been there for 11 years, paying that kind of money, and because they've positioned themselves differently. So again, it comes back to doing it differently, and this all comes out in your marketing too. So it comes out in it all starts from your website, your main message on your homepage, your special report, and then your ongoing email. It's all intertwined. But I guess to get rid of that how much do I charge question is, you don't have to look at what everyone else is doing and do what everyone else is doing. You can charge whatever you want, and then go about getting the business that you want, and marketing yourself directly to people, and showing them how you're different and how you're worth it. I don't know.
Right. Well, I've got a question about even just the price point, because somebody, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but somebody always told me that the 7 is the new 9. So rather than saying it's $79.95, say it's $77.95. It just sounds so much more affordable. Now in copywriting, do you go into any of that on how people convey the price when they're reading it compared to when they're actually...
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of things like that, and there's a lot of different psychological things, and I talk about this in one of my reports. But the number thing is big, and that's why you see, for a long time, anything ending with the number 9 was a big thing. Then it shifted to 7, and so I'm always trying to get ahead of the curve. So I went to 5.
That's great.
I was doing 5 while everyone else was still doing 7 and 9. but it is, but again, there, it's it's being different. And here's something else that, and just a little tip for people too, is that if you're selling a premium service, or any kind of what you want to convey as a luxury service or a higher end service, and I really encourage people to do this, end it with zero. This sounds contradictory and goes against conventional thinking, but you know instead of making it, let's say you were selling a $2,000 coaching program, instead of calling it $19.95 and thinking that, ooh, people are going to think it's cheaper, call it $2,000. Boom, that's it. And there's been studies on this, psychological studies, and that if you are selling a higher end income product or service, that you are actually better off to end it just like that, with a zero. And
It does. It feels more elite. It
it
feels
does.
better. I feel like I'm getting more for that 5 cents difference.
Yeah. And just one thing real quick too, I know I'm watching the clock here too, but just one thing real quick on that too is I would encourage everybody, everybody watching, no matter what you sell, no matter what kind of product you have or what kind of service you sell, to develop what I would call this is a term that I came up with, a Rolls Royce service. And by that, I mean, have a high end service or product that you offer, that you sell, and offer it on your website with a price listed on it. Some people are reluctant to put prices on their website because they want to have tailored proposals for people, and they don't want people to price shop and stuff like this. But having a Rolls-Royce service does a couple things. One, it instantly positions you as an expert, because if people see that you are offering, say, a $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 service, they're going to know that you know what you're talking about. Someone who's and this is a hard thing for people to do, especially when they're brand new, because they don't have the confidence to pull this off. But if somehow, some way, even if you're brand new in your field, if you're a new health coach, if you're a new personal trainer, whatever it is, I challenge you and I implore you to come up with some kind of a high-end service and offer it on your website. It will position you as an authority. It will also, relative to your other services, so I recommend people have what I call a test drive service, a core service, and a Rolls-Royce service. Relative to the core service that you really focus on, the Rolls-Royce service is going to be high-end, it's going to be expensive, but I should say relative to that, your core service is going to seem really affordable and really like, hey, wow, this is the best deal. I would love, so if you were offering a $3,000 service, Jasper, I would say, oh my gosh, I'd love to work with you, Jasper, and I'd love to do that Rolls-Royce service, but I can't really do that right now. It's not my budget. But hey, let's go with the $600 service, and yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's do it. So it's a psychological thing too, but it does give you a little bit more authority too to do that. And you know what? Here's the thing: if people like you and they want to work with you, and they're going to work with you on your core service or whatever you offer, there's a certain percentage of people, maybe 10% of your clients, that they want more of you. And you owe it. I believe we owe it to them to offer something big and offer more of ourselves to people. So anyways, I encourage everybody to, no matter where you are, even if you're just starting out, to come up with some kind of a high-end service.
I love it. I have a question where I was working with a amazing personal trainer. She was this beautiful bodybuilder, champion athlete, and that was here, and I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, and so are you. And so she was very unique. She stood out in the crowd just by walking in the room. She was just beautiful. And I was like, I want to hire her just because she's so amazing. Her energy is just wow. But then she hired me instead because she was moving to Miami, Florida. And now with her, the way she was a small fish in a very big pond. She did not stand out anymore because everyone looked like her. So she needed to completely transform her message, what she's about, because it didn't matter that she knew what she was talking about because of how her presence was, her aura, but she had to be able to convey that. So when it's too saturated, or the idea that it's too saturated, how do you, with your copywriting or with anything, how do you get over that and thinking that it's too saturated?
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, there's always going to be a lot of people doing what you do. I mean, if you're a real estate agent, there's a lot of real estate agents. If you're a financial planner, there's a lot of financial planner. If you're a lawyer, you know, there's a lot of, but you have to just in some ways, and I'll give you a couple of specific ideas here, but in some ways you have to just block out the noise and put blinders on and realize that, okay, yeah, there are a ton of people out there, but you have to kind of not worry about that, and you have to just go after, and you know what I'm talking about here, but you have to just kind of figure out who are my people and who are the people that I'm going to connect with, and you got to just kind of develop your own little circle of people, and get them to just buy into you and your ideas and your stuff. And over time this takes, and I'll give you some ideas on how to do that and how to get started, but you kind of have to not worry about it, and just, yeah, you realize that there's competition out there. You realize that the market may be saturated, as they say, but you have to kind of make up your mind that you're going to be one of the better ones too. There's a lot of personal trainers that, you know, a few that make really good money, a lot that don't make a whole lot of money. There's a lot of copywriters out there, some that make really good money and a lot that make really average money. You just have to kind of make up your mind to be one of the better ones and go and find the people that are going to buy into what you do. I think it starts with coming up with a good, if you want to stand out, it starts with coming up with a good business name. It starts with coming up with a good tagline. These are copywriting things. These are marketing things. And it really, you should put a lot of thought into that, and not just, you know, I see people just casually come up with some quick name that doesn't really, you know, resonate. So your business name, your tagline, what you call your services, and then of course your marketing, and again, this starts with, I think you have to just get the word out about what you do by publishing something. You start with a little report, start with an ebook, but eventually, gosh, the best thing to do for people, if you really want to make your mark and stand out, you mentioned it in the very beginning, Jasper, write a book. If you write a book, you're an instant authority. You're a celebrity, and people will know you, and it's a tool that can help you stand out. And there's a lot of ways then to do book marketing and get the word out about your book. But more than anything, it's just a brand. It's a tool. It's a marketing tool. It's a branding tool to help you stand out, and you can give it to people. That could be your lead generation system. Your
So
book.
here's another question regarding writing the book, because I know with most wellness coaches or personal trainers, I'm just trying to picture the one that I was working with. There's no way in the world she'd write a book. There's just no way. There's no time because she's so busy working with others. So you have a book. Everyone has a book within them. They can hire ghostwriters, correct? That can speak in their voice.
Yes, yes, yes. That's an excellent point. In fact, I've gotten asked twice this year already to ghostwrite books, and I wish I had had the time because it was the great projects, and it can be very good money too. But yeah, hire a ghostwriter to write the book for you. There's a lot of people that have written books that are in their name that they didn't write the book, but it's in their voice. And so this could be, you know, it could be a CEO of a company that doesn't have time. It could be somebody that really is good at, you know, maybe speaking, but maybe they're not so good at writing. Maybe it's, you know, whatever the reason is, or just you just flat out don't have time. But yeah, I would say for anybody that's thinking, well, gosh, that's either thinking, well, I don't have time to write a book, or I don't know how I would organize this all. I just, you know, I'm not a good writer, or I just, you know, whatever, hire someone else to do it. It will pay off eventually.
Right, and it'll get done.
It'll get done. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you know, and you're right. I think everybody that's got some ideas and running a business of any kind I think has a book in them, but but if it just, yeah, it won't get done. I mean, I've been saying, you know, I said for 10 years that I wanted to write a book, and, you know, it's like, that's how long it finally took me to finally do it. But, yeah, hire someone else, hire a ghostwriter to do it. Or at the very least, hire someone to heavily edit it. Maybe you could do it, or help somebody, hire someone to help you organize it. I've helped 2 people in the last year. I didn't ghostwrite their books, but I helped them organize it by chapter. I did some heavy editing, critiquing, and stuff like that. So,
Right.
yeah.
And I'm going to use my one friend who was the phenomenal beautiful bodybuilding trainer that went from Madison, Wisconsin to Miami Beach, Florida. Her rates, she was charging like, $100 an hour here in Madison. That was top here in Madison for what she was doing. But then she was moving to Miami, and she's like, "Oh my God, they charge $275 to $300 an hour there. How am I going to do that?" But she was so confident, she didn't care. She's like, I don't care. I'm going to charge whatever the heck I want. But the thing is do people really, that whole mindset when you first get started, which may have been 10 years ago, are you still charging the rate that you charged 10 years ago to what you're doing now? And
Yeah.
how do you get people to overcome that?
That's a tough thing. I think one of the things you can do, and it sounds like she did this, and she saw what the people were. I think we need to, whatever field we're in, whatever our niche is, we need to look at the top people. And I really mean the top people in that niche, and look at what they're doing and what they're charging, and we need to aim for that. It may not be an instant thing where if I'm charging, just if I'm pricing. If I'm charging $500 for a typical project and they're charging $2,500, I'm not going to necessarily instantly, multiply my prices by a factor of 5, but I'm going to aim for that. And I think we need to so look at what the top people are doing and kind of reverse engineer it and just think, okay, well, that just sounds unbelievable. That's exorbitant. Do people really pay that? But obviously if they're doing well and they're charging that, they are. So, giving an example, when I started coaching copywriters, I thought, okay, $100 an hour, that seemed actually a little high to me. But then I find out that people are charging, for certain things, business coaching and things, that there's people that are charging $500 an hour, charging $2,500 for a VIP day to hang out with them and learn from them for the day. And I'm not at that level, but I'm aiming for that. So I'm looking at the top people and thinking, okay, well, what are they doing? But more importantly, not just what they're charging, but reverse engineer and what are they giving? What's the value that they're giving for that? So much of the conversation is always about, well, how much do we charge, and getting the right pricing and all this stuff. We've talked a lot about that, but really we need to focus more on, hey, what is the value that they're getting out of this, for what they're paying me. Yeah. And almost have a nonchalant view of the money itself. I just honestly, I don't really keep track of the money so much, and I don't keep track of, people pay me through PayPal, and a lot of people are on automatic monthly billing and stuff. I don't really even pay attention to the money so much. My focus is, I just flip it. My focus is, how can I just continually give more value individually to people and to people as a whole by writing things and publishing things? How can I just give more of myself and just give more value? And so I guess long answer, but to just summarize there, look at what the top people are doing, reverse engineer what it is that they're doing to get to that point, and then just incrementally get yourself up there.
Nice. I like that. So what's the difference between two people of equal talent, equal marketing efforts? You could have the best copywriting in the world, but if people don't like you, seriously.
So here's something I hear from, that's a good point. And this is maybe a harsh thing for some people to hear, and it's a tough conversation for me to have with people sometimes, but I'll give you an example. So sometimes I'm doing business coaching with people, and I could have two different people, and one person is really just kicking butt, and they're doing well, and they're making, let's just say they're making $150,000 a year, and things are rolling, and they've got everything going. This person over here is doing the same thing. They're doing the same kind of marketing, offering the same services. In fact, they're offering those services at the same prices, and yet their schedule isn't booked up. They're having a hard time, getting people on board. They're having a hard time keeping people. They're getting a lot of excuses from people, like, I'm going to look around, thanks. And, here's the thing, flat out, is the difference is, in some cases, it's just what I would just call a likability factor. People, if we as clients buying whatever services are out there, whether we're buying personal training services or hiring a health coach or whatever, hiring a life coach, whatever we're doing as the client, we have a lot of choices, right? There's no lack of the services that we want. So if someone's two people of equal value and equal, services and prices, I'm going to choose the person that I really like. And so I just encourage, this is not a copywriting thing. This is not a marketing thing. It's not a business thing. It's just something we need to take a good hard look at ourselves sometimes and do an honest self-assessment and just think, are there things that I'm doing to, am I doing, I should say, put in a positive spin, am I doing everything that I can to get people to like me? And this sounds kind of corny and old school and how to win friends and influence people type stuff, but really there's some value to that. And there's a reason that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, has remained a business best-selling book for 75 years or whatever it's been. And I think we could all stand to take a step back and do an honest self-assessment and just think, how can I get people to like me more? How can I make a better first impression? How can I serve people better? How can I just be, personality-wise, just be more likable? I don't know how else to say it, but that's sometimes what holds people back is, maybe they're not clicking with people as much as they should.
Well, and How to Win Friends and Influence People is a must read for anybody in the wellness industry. Seriously.
Yeah.
Because if you're just out to make people wrong and you to be right, which a lot of people in the wellness industry, they kind of hang their hat on nutrition and you do what I say because you're not doing it right and I'm right and you're wrong, you're not going to get any clients.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
No.
So what's the most important skill for any small business owner, entrepreneur, or freelancer?
Well, okay. So we see so much about, marketing systems and funnels and all this stuff. And we need to get good at that. And we need to have systems and we need to provide a good service and all this stuff. But the component that I see missing in a lot of cases, and where a lot of people miss out on a lot of clients. So I'll use copywriters as an example, but they'll have their marketing systems in place. They'll have lead generation systems. They'll be getting people interested in their services. And this would go for a personal trainer, health coach, whatever. They're getting leads and stuff like this. But if we're offering a service, at some point, it's going to come down to a one-on-one client conversation. There's not too many people that offer things of high value where you don't have to talk to them. And so here, this just goes back to my roots and my beginning in my 17-year sales career before I started. The skill that I think everybody needs to get much, much better at, all of us, myself included, is selling. Plain and simple, selling skills. The art of selling I think has become somewhat of a lost skill. The art of conversation, the art of asking questions, the art of leading people persuasively to an action that you want them to take. I do it in writing with my copywriting, and this is ironic that I talk to a lot of copywriters who are good at selling in print, and they can write a sales letter, they can write an email marketing message, they can write a launch sequence and do that effectively. But when it comes to actually talking to somebody one-on-one, they don't do it. And I think part of it is we don't see it modeled enough. We don't see if a personal trainer is getting started, do they get to watch a successful personal trainer get on the phone with people or sit across the table from somebody one-on-one and do we get to see that modeled? Probably not. So one of the things that I do in my business coaching and working with copywriters and just for myself is I work with people and really help them develop good just dialogues and good conversations. I think it's something that we shouldn't be winging it. A lot of people think, well, isn't it just kind of asking questions and listening and being a good listener and, maybe asking the closing question at the end. There's a little bit more to it than that. And I think it should be more structured and more thought out. You don't have to give a sales presentation or a canned presentation by any means. But whenever I talk to somebody, I'm thinking about it and I'm planning it out beforehand. And this is just something I give advice to people on a lot. I was in a Facebook discussion the other day and some guy was asking, I'm getting a lot of leads, a lot of appointments, but then, when I call them, it goes straight to voicemail and they're not answering. And, and he had a question, is this common? And I said, well, actually, no, it's not. You're not setting it up right. And I proceeded to give him about 4 paragraphs of just sample dialogue that he could use on the front end talking to people. And he's like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. Why didn't I think of this? And to me, it's kind of common sense stuff because I've been doing it for 31 years, but it isn't taught as much. So the number one skill to answer the question is that I think everybody could stand to get better at is selling. So if no matter what you're doing, if you're a personal trainer, if you're a copywriter, if you're a graphic designer, if you're a health coach, a life coach, whatever it is you're doing, I think we could all stand to spend a little time, we focus on branding and marketing and all this stuff. Try to, focus a little bit on the selling part of things, read some selling books, get good at the client conversation, that end point where it comes down to, are they going to work with us or not? A lot of people miss the boat there.
Yeah. And during the selling process, or during the point of having the sales conversation, we like to call it that, a lot of people aren't present. They aren't listening to what the client's saying. And so that's why they're losing the sale. So that's the one key part right there.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you'd love to add that I didn't ask? Because I'm present in this conversation, and I want you to know that I've been listening to everything you've been saying. So
actually, I thought I do have a couple last things, but yeah, I mean, first of all, you've done a great job as interviewing and listening and being present. No, this was great. I enjoyed the conversation. I hope people got some good ideas from it. I guess I just want to, I don't know if I really brought this out too much, but I guess two things that I would like to leave people with that I think you could just, if you can focus on these two things, again, no matter what your business, personal trainer, health coach, anything, whatever your business is, if you can focus on and present yourself as being an idea generator and a problem solver, above and beyond everything else that I've said, and just besides incorporating whatever else you're already doing right and stuff, the idea of being an idea generator and a problem solver. First of all, a problem solver, that's what we do. If there weren't problems, none of us would be in business. We wouldn't have a job. So, I mean, people have problems. We need to think about, okay, not just offering our services, and, we have to look at it, from a very deep psychological level of why are people doing this? Why is a 60-year-old guy coming to me and coming back to the gym after being away for 20 years? Why is this 30-year-old mom, coming to me for nutrition advice? Or there's deeper levels than just the losing weight and getting in shape stuff. So we need to really always remember that we're in the business of solving problems, and the fact that people have problems is good, and come at everything that we do from a aspect of solving problems. But the other one, the idea generating, this I'd say, besides my sales background, is probably more responsible for my success up to this point in my career than anything. Is just I have somehow become known as someone who generates ideas for other people. So I am constantly trying to, whether I can help them or not, whether they work with me or not, when I'm talking to people one-on-one, when I'm talking to a group of people, when I'm talking to people in a Facebook group or one-on-one by email, whatever it is, I'm always trying to give them ideas that they can use and run with, whether they work with me or not. And I do this with business clients too. This is how I got copywriting clients in the beginning. I would just say something like, I don't know if we're going to be a good match for each other. I've got some things that I think will help you, and I've got a 3-step system that will help you generate leads and grow your business. But at the very least, whether we're in a good fit or not, at the very least, I'm going to give you a couple ideas, very specific ideas for your business that you can implement yourself or run with somebody else. And I think they'll help you. So, I'm always giving people ideas, and just even out of the blue, I'll email my clients and say, hey, I was just thinking of you the other day. I don't know if you could use this or not. And I'm too busy right now. I don't have time to help you myself. But if you can find somebody internally to do this for you, I think this would really work for your company. And I really am. I'm constantly thinking of ideas to help my clients grow. This goes for the businesses that I do copywriting for, and copywriters themselves, and trying to help their businesses grow. So, and that's a big part of my book too. The Freelancer Manifesto the subtitle is 11 Big Ideas to Help You Stand Out and Thrive in the New Economy. Will be available on Amazon next month. A little plug for my book there. But it's all about coming up. It's ideas for people, and these 11 big ideas, as I call them, I think will really help people no matter what type of business they're in. So being an idea generator, being a problem solver, you can focus on those two things. I think all the other things will fall into place.
Well, I think that's a really good idea, and I love doing that whole process too. Because whether they hire you or not, it doesn't matter. It's just that you came up with this idea. The next person will, and you go to use that idea. So,
Yeah.
putting that idea into play. Another thing that a person said to me, which I love, is you can't correct course standing still. So when you do have an idea and you want to share it and put it out there, how do you know if it's going to work unless you start sharing it? You know?
Well, and here's the thing too, is people are just so, I hear copywriters say this all the time. They're like, well, it's a good idea. I don't want to give it away to somebody. And I'm like, ideas are, you can come up with more ideas. I mean, I've got like right here on my desk, I've got a stack of 3x5 index cards, like 200 of these. Every one of these is an idea for a blog post, an article, a business idea. I mean, we can keep coming up with more ideas all the time. There's no end to it. So I'm perfectly fine with giving away ideas, or even giving clients ideas that they don't need my help to implement them. It's like, I don't have to just hold everything. I think I see this so often. People just are clinging to things, and they want to they think everything that they have, they're like, well, I've spent a lot of time getting this expertise that I have, and these, this knowledge that I have. I've gone to school, I've gotten training, I've spent a lot of money to get this knowledge up here in my head. I'm not just giving it away for free. They got to pay me for my, the old idea of, hey, you can't just pick my brain for free. You got to pay for this stuff. I'm like, I take the opposite approach, actually. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't spend hours letting people talk to me at the coffee shop, but pick my brain. Do I have some ideas for you? Absolutely.
And you actually do, for everyone that's still listening, because you are a giver, and so you do have a free gift that you're offering to people.
Yeah. So I've got this, and I think it's fantastic. And I came up with this based on a response to a challenge that I saw, a problem that I saw with people that I was working with. So again, one of the biggest challenges people have is, how do I price my services? And this goes for whether you're a writer, a copywriter, a website design person, a graphic design person, a personal trainer, a health coach, whatever. People have trouble really pinpointing how much should I really charge and hitting that sweet spot. So I wrote something called The Last Pricing Guide You'll Ever Need. So sometimes writers, especially, I don't know how other people do it, but writers, there's actually these pricing guides where they say, well, for this service, charge this, and for this service, charge this, and for this service, you should charge this. And other people in other industries will pretty much look at the competition. I say, forget all that. I've got a whole different way of doing it. And I outline 5 ways to pinpoint that sweet spot price that you should be charging, so that you're not leaving money on the table, but that you're also most likely to get your schedule fully booked up. So it's called The Last Pricing Guide You'll Ever Need. And it really applies to people in all industries. I tried not to make it specific just to copywriters and writers. But it's available at my website, cafewriter.com. And if you just go there, you'll see it, and you can just download it. You put in your first name, your email address, and you can download it. And
we'll also have a link in the email that they have. We'll have a free gift link where they can go to that also.
Awesome.
Make it easy. Keep it simple.
Yes. So however they want, but that's what it, yeah, however they get it, we'll have, but that's what it's called, The Last Pricing Guide You'll Ever Need. And I really do think, and this has been something I've been thinking about and kicking around for the last year or two. And I finally wrote it. So I think it'll help people a lot.
I love it. I love the title. I love the words that you choose to use, and I think it's beautiful. So thank you for all the information that you so generously shared. And I know everyone is going to at least be able to get the title for their book done, and then be able to hire their ghostwriter effectively and know whether they're a good writer or not. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jasper, so much. It really has been a pleasure of mine to do this. And I love any opportunity that I have to just share a few ideas and to talk with you. And again, it's just been great knowing you all these years. I'm just so glad that it's come full circle, and now we'll need to meet at a brew pub or something soon and complete it full circle, back to where we started 15, 17 years ago. But no, I look forward to, continuing to work with you on some things. But thank you for having me on this online summit. And I'm looking forward to hearing all the other speakers as well. So I've signed up for this myself so that I can get all the other interviews.
Well, you're going to help me write the 5 books that I have a list of. So thank you.
I know you've got some great ideas. You've told me about a couple of them.
Yes. So thank you. I appreciate it. And everyone else thanks you. So I love it.
Excellent. Have a great day.